Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio. Brought to you by OnPay, Atlanta's new standard in payroll. Now, here's your host.
Lee Cantor here, another episode of Atlanta Business Radio, and this is going to be a fun one. Today on the show, we have Karen Mills with Mills Law. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm so excited to learn about your practice. Tell us a little bit about Mills Law. How are you serving folks?
Okay, so Mills Law, LLC is a boutique law firm located here in Atlanta, Georgia, where we specialize in corporate transactional contracts and business law. I like to say we do everything from helping you form the entity to selling the entity and a lot in between. And a lot in between is usually contract review, negotiation, and drafting.
Well, what's your backstory? Have you always been interested in law?
Well, you know, it's funny. I always wanted to be an attorney ever since the ninth grade of high school. But what happened is the summer after my junior year of high school, I attended a program at Georgia Tech called MITE, Minority Introduction to Engineering, fell in love with electrical engineering and Georgia Tech. So I have an electrical engineering degree, worked as an engineer for about 4.5 years up in the North Carolina area. And then once I became a registered professional engineer, I quit and went to law school at University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill.
Now, after graduating law school, did you join one of these large firms, or have you always worked in boutique firms?
I actually did join a mid-sized firm, one of the oldest here in Atlanta, and worked my way up from associate to partner there, and then started my own firm with another attorney in 2010, and realized, really, I laugh out loud, say how type A I am, and realized I need to be by myself. So I formed Mills Law Associates at that time in January of 2011. So I have actually just a few weeks ago celebrated my 11th anniversary of my own firm. And I guess I've been practicing law now for a little over 22 years.
Well, congratulations. That's quite an achievement.
Thank you.
Now, what attracted you to having your own firm? Like, what are kind of for maybe aspiring attorneys out there, what would be some of the trade-offs of having your own firm as opposed to working for, like you said, a mid-size or even with a smaller firm?
I laugh. I always joked once I was left the big firm and was at, just me. I said, I missed the mailroom. I said, I missed the mailroom and having the luxury of having that, laugh out loud. But no, I always say to folks when they're talking about being on the entrepreneur, the best part of it is just you. The worst part about it is just you. I mean, my thing is, if you do not kill, you don't eat. So a lot of times is that, when you have clients, you're looking for clients. When you don't have clients, you're looking for clients. So you're always looking for clients, right? But I guess with the big firm, of course, you have a lot more departments there and a lot more collaboration between the various departments. Now, I do have collaboration now as a solo practitioner, but I team up with other solo and small firm as needed because there's quite a few of us who have been partners at mid to large size firms, and now we have our own practice or either a small practice.
Now, is there any advice you can share for entrepreneurs or maybe solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, small business owners when it comes to kind of legal issues that maybe they're not paying as much attention to as they should?
Yeah, a few things. There's some of these little pitfalls that I constantly see out here. One of the things that I often see, and even when I'm doing my presentations, is incomplete corporate records. And a lot of times, one of the things I ask is, what is a corporate minute book? And I added that to a lot of my presentations because there was someone that I knew well who worked in supplier development at a Fortune 500 company. And of course, it being a Fortune 500 company, people, of course, want to do business with them. And they stated that when they were sitting across the table from various individuals, and they would say a term like corporate minute book, and those individuals would look like a deer in headlights. They were like, okay, and what she stated she wanted to say, but what she didn't, was that if you don't understand a term like corporate minute book, it's not likely you would get a contract at that kind of company, a Fortune 500 company. So when she told me that, this was years ago, I try to make it an effort to, when I'm doing presentations, to ask whether people actually have a corporate minute book. And, it's just basically the official written record, that it's going to contain all of the governing documentation as well as the documented approval of various transactions of the owners and officers of the entity. And a lot of times people, because we're good at forming a lot of our entities online ourselves. So we'll do the name reservation with the Secretary of State. We'll file the articles of organization if we're a limited liability company. We'll file the articles of incorporation if we're a corporation. And typically that may be where we stop. Well, we also need, if we're a limited liability company, let's make sure we have our operating agreement. We also want to make sure that we have, I often ask, prove to me you're the owner of the company when I'm presentations and people pull out business cards. I'm like, look, I can go to Staples and get a business card that says I'm an owner. I'm like, that doesn't prove it. Show me the ownership, your equity ownership certificate, whether it's a limited liability company, you have your unit certificate or your member certificate. If you are a corporation, you're going to have a share certificate or a stock certificate. And those are the kinds of things, of course, that you'll find in the corporate minute book. You'll find the consents where you are approving, authorizing, even from the formation of the entity, or various purchases, especially significant purchases that may be there. And you also have the corporate seal. Oftentimes if we are executing real estate related documents, or maybe some bank financing documents, and on that signature block there, in addition to the name printed by all of that information, they may have SEAL, which of course they want you to emboss the corporate seal. So that also comes in the corporate minute book. And so and you can Google it and see, but I want to make sure when I tell people that they can Google and find corporate minute book, make sure that you know what you're doing to be able to prepare the documentation properly, because things have to make sure they are in alignment, so that when you have your corporate minute book, and often the information that's in it, you may need it for certification. You may be applying for certification as a minority-owned business, a woman-owned business, or a disadvantaged business enterprise. You might even, somebody may want to invest in your company, and they may be asking for that documentation. And what you don't want to happen is when they request the contents of it, you're telling them, hold on, give me about a month and I can get that to you, because that wouldn't look well at all. So you want to make sure that you're keeping up with that kind of information initially, so that you don't have to try to recreate the wheel when you have those investors or someone may want to purchase your company, or you're trying to apply for various certifications.
Now, do you find that most small, even mid-sized companies, they're kind of underrepresented, that they're not leaning on the advice of attorneys enough, especially, you want to get some of your ducks in a row right from the beginning, so you don't have any surprises later on, because at some point, most people want to sell their business. They want to, get partners, get loans, get money, get certified for a variety of different things. And if you don't do some of this foundational stuff right at the beginning, it can really hurt you later on.
That's exactly right. We see it often. Like I explained earlier, I do corporate transactional contracts and business, also strictly transactional work. I hate to see it when I have potential clients come to me who've already entered into a contract, and either they're not getting paid or something else is wrong. And at that point, all I can do is refer them to a litigator. And they're the ones that are going into court. They're doing all this. And it's like, it's costly. And you just want to tell them, if you had only come to me on the front end, maybe once I reviewed that contract, I could have told you that it was one where you don't get paid unless maybe the prime contractor gets paid. And so, you signed off on that. I'm like, did you pay attention to that when you initially reviewed the contract? And a lot of times it's like, well, I looked for the payment provision and saw that, and they told me it was going to be a 2-year contract. So I looked for the term, and it's like, you can't just look at those things. While they are key provisions and very important, every single word in a contract counts. So you have to take time to review it, or you have somebody to review it. And oftentimes what I'm finding is that people are often intimidated by attorneys. Of course, sometimes it may be cost prohibitive as they think, because of course, sometimes they don't see the value in our services sometimes until after the fact. And, sometimes, I was telling a couple of potential clients yesterday, a lot of us who are small and solo practitioners, we're small businesses too. So we understand about small business ownership and entrepreneurship. So we are sensitive to that. And then often when we see people who are trying to do things the right way, sometimes you'll be amazed at how people will work with you regarding certain things.
Now, in addition to being an attorney, you're also an entrepreneur. Can you talk a little bit about your food products adventure?
Yeah, so I laughed. It's KVM Enterprises, LLC, doing business as Miss Jenny's Treats. It's a play off of my late mother's name. Her name was Jeanette, and it's Miss Jenny's Treats. And so when I was an associate at the firm years ago, at holiday season, my sister had given me a recipe for spiced pecans. I made those, and boy, people went crazy over them, and they were like, oh, you need to make these all the time. I was like, are you kidding me? I'm like, I am barely able to keep up with my legal hours. You think I want to do this on a regular? Well, fast forward 15 years later, I said, you know what? Let me try and see if anybody would really want to buy these things. So I'm originally raised in Macon, Georgia. So I went to a flea market down there. This was in December of 2015. And I said, you know what? Let me see if anybody would want to buy these. So I ended up engaging a graphics designer to make a pecan with eyelashes and boots. It was hilarious. And that was got some mason jars and, Miss Jenny spiced pecans. And I learned a couple of things. One, it's funny because when I was trying to give them to people to taste this, they were like, are they hot? And I'm like, hot? No, they sugar cinnamon mix. But I was like, okay, the name, spiced pecans. Okay, so I said, I'm going to have to change the name. And then I realized that people did want to purchase them. So I said, for 2016, I'm going to launch a website and I'm going to change the name. So now they're Miss Jenny's Treats, Simply Divine Pecans. I have a website, and we actually celebrated the 5th year anniversary last year. So we're getting ready to approach the 6th anniversary soon. And I say, look, they came about because I was making them for gifts for colleagues and clients. So I make them I make them now, of course, commercial kitchen, doing all of that. But I said they make great gifts because that's what they were intended for initially. So I get, holiday season is extremely busy with making those gifts. And I love it. I get so many stories about when they are received as gifts. I remember one consultant, he had sent, quite a few out to various clients. And he said one client called him about 2 or 3 times afterwards. And then he called me. He was like, what did you put in there? Did you put something in addition to that 110? I was like, no. He said, this lady has called me 3 times about that gift. I said, well, what you have to look at it, that with that being is you just got 3 touch points that you could talk to that client about something. So I was like, so I love it. The stories that I get every single year about people loving the taste of them. And they just, I laugh out loud. I even have some folks who were like, you're going to cause us to get divorced because I got home one day and there were no pecans left. And I'm considering it. I think I might need to divorce him for trying to leave me without any pecans. So it's just so many stories around here. But like I say, they make great gifts for others or a good treat for yourself.
So any advice for that aspiring person who has maybe a family recipe that in the back of their head they said, you know what, maybe I could make a go of this? What would be some things they can do to take action to see if it's viable or not? Because, some of these things, it might taste good to your family, but to the public it may not be as wonderful.
Exactly. And I would suggest doing something like I did where you're like, you know what, you can go down to a flea market where you just pay a booth rent and see whether people are receptive to them. And once I realized that others were receptive, I was like, you know what, this seems like it may be a good idea commercially. So, do that taste testing and see if somebody wants your product. And then, go full speed ahead as far as making sure, you're going to have a website. Engage somebody or get some ideas regarding marketing. And then don't let anybody, I laugh because, I say it's not rocket science, the recipe, right? And I'm like, but a lot of times people are paying for the convenience. I'll get people to say, I make these pecans, but you know what? I love it because you're making them. That means I don't have the headache of it. So, you have to realize one thing I've learned over the years. They said people pay for answers. They don't pay for problems. So if you can be an answer to someone, go full speed ahead. And my attitude is I want to die empty. So any gift and talent that I have, I'm going to use it. So when folks see me selling the pecans and I'm practicing law and I was, an engineer and then an educator, because I've also been an adjunct professor over at Emory Law School teaching contract drafting. I'm like, look, any gift and talent I have, I'm going to use it. Don't, feel like that you have to stay in one particular position or a silo. Use them all. Use your gifts and talents.
Now, getting back to your law firm, do you have an ideal kind of profile of a client, or do you work with certain types of entities?
No, I have a wide variety. I have Fortune 500 companies where I assist their in-house. They have huge in-house legal departments. I do that and then I also assist the individual, the ones who are just starting out, who has no idea about starting a business. So that sometimes they're just relying on me regarding, like, what should I do now? So it's a variety. And, of course, I only have so much time to be able to assist everyone. But, I always laugh. I joke sometimes. I'm like, folks who need legal services and can pay for them, not an or, but an and. But I have a wide variety. And I think what happens a lot of times is people sometimes don't understand the different practice areas that can actually impact their business. I'll get someone that'll say, Karen, I'm about to buy a building or purchase some land. I was like, okay, I need to get you to a commercial real estate attorney, or I have some issues related to copyrights and trademark. Need to get you to an intellectual property attorney. You tell me, okay, Karen, I think I might have some folks that are interested in investing in my business. Well, I want to make sure to get you to a securities attorney. So there are so many different kinds of practice areas that can impact the business. And what you want to do is get someone to me that's practicing in that particular area day in, day out, because to me, they're going to be cost effective, and then they definitely know what they're talking about.
So now, on your website, do you have resources for folks that maybe they're not ready, or maybe they can't afford to hire you today, but are there resources there for them to maybe just learn a little bit so they can at least get some baby steps or foundational information so they're off in the right direction or on the right foot?
I do. If you go to my website, it's millslawllc.com. That's MILLSLAWLLC.com. You go to the legal learning page and you'll see I have some free webinars there that talks about pitfalls. I have some paid webinars, and I even just co-authored a legal resource guide workbook with Antoinette Ball from the organization Women's Entrepreneurial Opportunity Project. And it is entitled Avoiding Business Conflicts. It's 5 important contracts and legal documents for entrepreneurs and business owners. And how it came about is because, that organization is a nonprofit organization, WEOP, and they help female business owners, but they also have male members as well. And then for me and my practice area of just seeing day in, day out some of these pitfalls, what we were trying to do is create a resource, because like when I do those presentations, people aren't going to admit what they don't know in front of people. So it's like, you know what? And they know they don't know it. They're afraid to ask questions. So if this kind of workbook can be used in the comfort of their home or the comfort of their office, where they are getting samples of certain documents. And so what happens is it kind of takes you on a journey. It's a small business owner of a tech company who meets somebody at a chamber and realizes that I think they may be an angel investor, and they want to share some information with them. Where they realize, say, I need a non-disclosure confidentiality agreement. So that's the first agreement in there. Then they realize that, they have someone that needs to come in to service their computers, but they don't have a services agreement. So the next agreement is a services agreement. Then they realize, you know what, I have too much work for me to handle, but I can't afford an employee, but maybe I can engage an independent contractor. So we have an independent contract agreement in there. Then they're at the point when they're ready and able to hire an employee and sustain an employee. So we have an employment offer letter. And then the fifth agreement that we have a sample of in there is that they are ready to team with others as individuals or as an entity to respond to a request for proposal. So we have a teaming agreement to respond to a request for proposal. So those are the 5 documents that we have in there. We have samples of them in there. We actually have information that describes key provisions in there. We have worksheets in there that will help you determine whether that particular agreement is appropriate for you at this time. And then we also have some legal ease in there where we make it to where it can be where a layperson can understand some of these legal terms. And the goal was to be able to create affordable quality resources, because you could pull every form that I mentioned, you could pull it online somewhere. But the key is, are you going to understand those key provisions? And so what I also have done on that website as well, on my website, you will see that I have, and they'll be starting next month, we're going to be doing webinars that will go over a couple of those chapters. So it's going to be 3 webinars, one doing the intro in the first chapter. Second webinar is the 3rd and 4th chapter in there as well. And then the last one will have, we'll go over that final chapters as well. So, we're just trying to make, and those going to be probably about 30-minute webinars, but just trying to give you some overall general information, because what we're trying to do is empower you, equip you, okay, as well as educate you. And that's what we're trying to do for the entrepreneurs and business owners.
Well, congratulations on all the success. You're just doing so much good work in so many areas. It just must be so rewarding for you to attack each day.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I greatly appreciate this opportunity, because just trying to make sure that people are aware of this information, I think that makes all the world of difference, because sometimes, we perish because of a lack of knowledge. And if we can just educate some of these entrepreneurs and business owners, I think it will help build their legal foundation, and then help them in being sustainable and help them with their growth as well.
And then can you share the websites one more time, the law firm and the pecan treats as well?
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the law firm website is millslawllc.com. So it's MILLSLAWLLC.com. And then for the food products company, which is KBM Enterprises LLC, doing business as Miss Jenny's Treats, it's MissJenny'sTreats.com. That's MISSJENNYSTREATS.com. So it's MissJenny'sTreats.com.
Well, Karen, thank you again for sharing your story. You're doing important work, and we appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me, and just let me know if ever I can provide any additional information.
You got it. All right, this is Lee Cantor. We'll see you all next time on Atlanta Business Radio.